Destiny 2 is a very complex game when it comes to winning fights. You have movement abilities, class abilities, grenades, melees, and supers all combined into one FPS game. While this may not be the most balanced formula for a first-person shooter, I cannot deny that it is fun, and there are endless ways to win your fights due to the variety of weapons and abilities that are in the game. So today we're going to go over some things that I think are essential for players to learn and understand to simply win more engagements. So if you like this type of thing, hit that sub button and let's hop into the video. Okay, so essentially what we're going to talk about today is the sort of mindset that you should have, or the thought processes that you should have as you are in your engagements. Obviously, if you hit more shots, you will get more kills, but that's only half of the game. There is so much more that goes into winning a fight, and as you get better at the game, you won't really have to think about these things. You'll start to just sort of do them on your own. Every fight you are in, you want to be looking for an advantage. Now, there are several advantages you should be looking for, and that's what we're going to be covering today. The first one I already kind of briefly mentioned, and that's just going to be the skill advantage. If you are simply just better than the other player and they are missing shots and you are not, you are going to win that fight. You are at an advantage. You will just peek them and you will shoot them and they will not hit you back. Obviously, that is not most of the fights, as this game is relatively easy to aim in. There is a lot of aim assist, so a lot of players don't really miss that often. So most of your fights won't come down to this, but it is worth mentioning. Okay, now the first major advantage I want to cover, I'm going to say, is the health advantage. If you simply have more health than the enemy, that is a fight you should try to take. Let's say your teammate hits a guy before he dies and he tells you that he's low, you have more health than them, you are at an advantage. Now, you have to be careful though, because special weapons that can one-shot you, like a shotgun or a sniper, or things like abilities or grenades, they can equalize this advantage. Let's say the enemy is 1 health, they're super low, and you run in with a shotgun, you have to know that he can also still one-shot you with his shotgun, so that would eliminate any advantage that you may have. So keep that in mind when you are on the other end as well. If you are one shot, remember that special weapons and well-timed abilities can nullify this advantage. Another form of health advantage would be an overshield. Something like with a Void Titan, or maybe you're in a Rift, a healing grenade as well. Those can also go along sort of in that category. Things like that. Anything that can sort of give you health can be considered a health advantage as well. The next advantage you can have is a range advantage. I've covered this a ton, so I'm just going to briefly explain it. But in Destiny, if you are in your weapon's range and the enemy is not, you will always win that fight, barring you choke your shots. If you're up close with a sidearm against someone with a hand cannon or something, you have the range advantage, you should take that fight. Same goes for the reverse. If you're far away with like a pulse rifle or a scout rifle and someone has a sidearm or something and they're too far from you, you will have that range advantage. You should try to take this fight. Now, next up is the numbers advantage. If you simply have more teammates, like you have someone with you or maybe 2 people with you, you should have an advantage against a solo enemy. Team shotting is really the key to excelling at this game, really even up to the highest level. You do need to be careful though, because obviously you can be let down by your teammate, but you should be able to at least expect them to hit a bullet or 2 at the very least. If nothing else, they can maybe take the focus off of you. Maybe the enemy will shoot them first instead of you, so then you can hit your shots. But really, you are an advantage if it's 2v1, even though it may not seem like that, especially if you're playing solo. But in theory, you should be an advantage 2 versus 1. You should take that fight. The next advantage you can have is map control. If you are controlling a power position on a map, you are at an advantage. There are certain angles or spots on a map that are more advantageous to hold, and being in control of these locations absolutely puts you at an advantage. Another type of map control could be the objective. Trials is zones now, so think about something like this. If your team is on the objective, the other team now has a timer and they must push you no matter what. This puts a pressure on the other team and it might force them to make dumb plays or something like that. Basically, it forces them to push you even if they are not equipped or ready to do so. Here's an example. Let's say you're just in a stalemate against the other team and you throw it like a god grenade and it tags everyone. But they can just put a Titan wall down and maybe they just heal it off and now you're sort of just back at a stalemate. However, if you were on the capture point and you throw a grenade and it tags everyone, they now don't really have time to heal it off. Now they have to push you no matter what if you are capping the point, because if they don't, you're just going to win. Obviously, this can be kind of situational, and simply standing on the capture point doesn't mean that you will win, but in certain situations, just putting that pressure on someone can absolutely win the fight, and it can definitely put you at an advantage. But like I said, that one is a bit situational, but definitely something to keep in mind. And the final advantage I want to talk about is Peeker's advantage. I've gone over it before, but still wanted to include it. So in general, you want to be peeking from your left shoulder in this game. Basically, it's like because of the angle your character holds the weapon, what it all equates to is that you will see the opponent slightly before they can see you. So if you ever run into someone, like maybe they have a hand cannon or something, and you swear that they're shooting you before you can see them around a corner, that is because of Peeker's advantage. They were likely peeking to their left, and when you do this right, especially on MK, it's a lot easier than on controller. It is very hard to actually see them. Sometimes they can hit you and you might not even see them. So it's actually really strong, especially if you're peeking to your right and they're peeking to their left. Like, they're gonna have a huge advantage. So definitely look out for that. In general, try to peek from your left when possible. Peeking from your right is okay. It's not like a bad thing to do, but if you're standing behind something and you have the option, peeking to your left is always better. I will say I think this is probably the weakest advantage out of the ones that I've talked about, but it can still be important, especially with certain weapons like hand cannons or snipers, so I wanted to include it in this list. So those are the key advantages that I think you should look for in a fight. I also want to point out that you can use the reverse of these situations to kind of identify like bad scenarios. So if you are on the receiving end of these things, like you are in the wrong range or you are outnumbered, you should try to realize this and adjust, maybe run away, regroup, reposition, something like that. Also, just remember that this is Destiny, so things like abilities or grenades and one-hit weapons can easily remove any of these advantages. Like, you may be 6 versus 1 against someone, but if they cloud strike your teammate and kill all of you, it's over, right? So just keep that in mind. Things like this do happen in this game. There are many grenades that are very strong. There are supers, there are melee abilities even. Things like this can definitely sort of turn the tides and they can remove any of these advantages. But in general, obviously that's not going to happen every time. So I still think it's important to sort of identify these advantages and, well, take advantage of them. So that's all I really have for this quick little video. Hopefully you found it helpful. Definitely like and subscribe if you like this type of thing. But as always, I'm Awake and I'll see you guys next time.